Hello everyone, welcome to the webinar today. This is Tom Garlock at IRA Asset News. We're excited that you could join us because this is going to be a very interesting presentation. I can promise you, I doubt you've heard anything like this in the past. Today we're going to talk about precious metals, and I'd like to introduce everyone to our guest speaker, Michael Godfrey. Michael is the founder and managing partner at the Materials Acquisition Company. I've been following their progress now for what feels like 2 years, and I've waited quite a while to be able to share this with everyone. So Michael, welcome to the webinar. Thanks for joining us. Let's get started talking about what you guys are doing in the precious metals field.
Thank you very much, Tom. I appreciate the opportunity to talk to your audience and your members at the IRA Club. What we have here is a presentation that I think gives them the background to what we do in a very succinct and I hope a fashion that they can understand with some clarity. And of course, if there's any questions that they have, a representative will be happy to answer those questions or direct them to one of our marketing VPs. So let's get started. I think the first thing to say, it's the Materials Acquisition Company, as you can see from our first slide, and we call ourselves TMAC. Own the source, own the end product. And that is the key to what we're doing here. The source being a material that comes out of the past. It's relatively rare. It's certainly historically unique. And I love this phrase, serendipities of place, time, and 21st century technology offer unparalleled ownership opportunities. This material, in short, is ancient slag that comes from old copper mines and copper workings that was smelted more than 100 years ago, sometime between the 1860s and the 1920s, actually. This material has been neglected for a long time because although certain sources have known that there were precious metals in it, those sources did not recognize the ability to get at them. And so these materials have been, as I say, neglected. One of the nice advantages about this stuff, and we go through the basic process, talks about roasting ore, concentrates, and smelting. And this is the piece that I would direct you to. One layer is waste, consisting of iron and silica compounds and discarded as slag. This slag that is discarded is the material that we deal with. And this material has been smelted, and hence it has been concentrated. Thereby lies our advantage. In the concentration, the precious metals that were left in the material, some gold, some silver, and more importantly, I believe, PGMs or platinum group metals were concentrated instead of staying at the original amount they had. So if you had 10 tons of ore that was concentrated down to 50 pounds, and that ends up as slag, in that slag will be the precious metals that were originally left in the originally distributed through the ore. So we have a concentrate. That's the first thing to know. So that's the basic process. Now we of course have to find this, and we have to look for mines that have the right kind of silica, and then we have to look for the slag, and we have to look for a clear title to the slag. And here you see the slag, and it comes a gray crumbly rock, or it's water cooled and turns into a glassy vitreous sand-like material. What we're looking for is a mine that had the right silicas and that was homogeneous. In other words, the ore all came from one place, and most mines were like that originally, because ore was not shipped in from outside like it is today. The ore was a lode that was discovered and used in one place, in one smelter, because there was no means of transport in large amounts of this material. This got started even before the days of the railway, the extensive railway. And here you see a slide that shows you the methods of hand digging and smelting and presenting and the large piles of waste that are left behind. And it mentions the crucial point that I bring up here, which is the elements of precious metals and more significantly PGMs. I believe that PGMs, platinum group metals, are the metals of the 21st century because all commerce, communication, ecological developments, medicine, all rely on these metals: palladium, platinum, iridium, osmium. Very unusual and very necessary metals.
Just to help everyone understand, this really, you're not in the mining business. You're really in the material processing business. You're processing ore that has been processed using antiquated technology 100 or more years ago, and you're using today's more modern technology to reprocess that same material and extract out of it what was left behind, it sounds like. Is that correct?
Sort of, Tom. There's just a slight variation on that. In essence, we are in the business of finding these materials, optioning them, testing them, and finding which ones we believe have the most significant elements, traces, amounts of the precious metals that we're talking about. We then engage other companies to process them for us. We contract with them to process them for us using various methodologies that we have pointed at and we have asked them to develop. And they process them for our account, and it was in that business that we realized that it made sense to offer it to a limited amount of bulk purchasers who would be interested in taking up the same fiscal advantage that these materials undoubtedly offer.
So if I understand, the buyer is really doing exactly what you're doing. You're locating this material as a service. You're helping the owner of that material then take it through the refining process down to the point where at the end of the day there's precious metals that are exchanged with the owner of that material. Would that be correct?
Yes, the same company, in essence, the same company that does processing for us is willing to offer its services to these buyers and to give them the same element of profitability and to manage that for them. And that makes it very simple for us. We just sell the bulk material, and the other company comes in, and if they want them to, they don't have to do it. If they want them to, we'll manage it for them. And we'll keep track of their account. The lawyers and accountants associated with that company will track the amounts, will track the account, and we'll let the buyer know when offers come through and ask the buyer if they want to sell at the price that's being offered.
I'm glad you touched on that because I want to make it clear, people aren't buying stock in your company and waiting for the stock price to go up or go down. They're actual buyers of a commodity, of a hard asset.
They actually are buying a hard asset. You're absolutely right. And in fact, if they wish, they can, they ultimately could take delivery of the asset themselves.
Okay, good to know. Let's talk a bit about the history then and how the old techniques were used and how the new techniques are being deployed in order to extract the precious metals out of the material.
Yes, and this is very important. And you see we put a little collage type slide together here that shows some of the modern methodology that's used. And there's basically two types. There's the pyrometallurgical type and there's the hydrometallurgical type. Both of them involve new methods of collecting the precious metals out of the slag. The difference is that they use one is fire, if you will, and one is liquid. And there are various schools of thought and you do various things with different materials to get the best result. But essentially what has happened over the last 50 years on the chemical side is the advent of what we call ligands, which are very important in separating out precious metals, particularly PGMs, from these materials. And then there's better mechanical means, vastly improved crushers, magnetic separators, flotation tanks, etc., that enable us to get at these metals. And bear in mind, we're talking about metals that, let's say, you know, anywhere we see numbers on our digital analysis of anywhere between 10 and 40 ounces a ton. But just bear in mind that the large refiners, if they can get half an ounce a ton, they're absolutely delighted to process that material. So we're talking about a much greater potential uptake and therefore much more likely ability to turn a very handsome profit on this material using these modern methods. This, Tom, is a little explanation of the platinum group metals, which I keep referring to, and it's very interesting, I think, and I'm not going to read through it. The individuals can look at it, and we also include a reference to the government website that talks about this. But as you can see, in 1900, the United States used approximately 2,560 kilograms of PGMs. And most of it was, that need was filled domestically. As you work through this, you can see domestic production in 2000 accounted for 2.7% of something like 500,000 kilograms. So clearly, and there are a lot of political explanations for that. By the way, I don't think many people know that we meaning the United States of America, actually agreed to stop platinum group metal production so the Russians could continue growing platinum group metal production, and we did this at the time of the end of the Cold War as a inducement for them to trade in their nukes. But it gives you an example of the importance of these metals. And I think there's another slide there coming up, which is the second part of that, and it tells you a bit more about them and gives you the government website where you can go to for information, and shows you a graphic of actually platinum, I think those are. Now this slide tells you about one of the things we had to do, of course, for the skeptics among us, and God bless them all. We first produced, and you can see the small chrome-colored button in the photo is a baseline of what you would get without using the methodologies necessary to extract the metal. And the ingot on the left is a ingot that contains all the metals, precious metals and other metals, that are in the material. So we proved that we could get that material out, and we have some digital XRF analysis that gives the kind of numbers of what the precious metals are. Now our task is to take those metals and separate them, and that's what we're in the process of doing, and the next slides will show us a little bit about that. We have a video of this going on, smelting. This shows us mixing the slag and the fluxes that help draw it out together, and then that's a crucible that you can see there. And then in this case we're using a process called nickel collection, where we add nickel carbonate to the flux, and the nickel carbonate collects the precious metals. And so here we have the residue being poured off, and then when the residue is poured off, what is left inside is clinker, and the clinker is actually what contains the precious metals. So when we get to the next slide, there you got the clinker. Now that clinker is crushed, and I mentioned the improvement in the machines we use these days. It's crushed, magnetically separated, and then it's extracted using a chemical process. And that's one of the things that we're working through to get the optimal solution. This is a copper doré bar, which is produced in a similar fashion to the nickel clinker, but in this case it's copper, and we're using copper collection. We're analyzing the comparative results to determine which gives us the best result. Now this, and in the copper bar case, the copper bar is reduced to small shavings, and that's how we do the extractions. I remember with the nickel it was crushed, demagnetized, and extracted. In the copper case, the copper bar is reduced to small shavings, and then it's easier to make the chemical extraction and produce what they call cake, which is where the precious metals is. So in conclusion, we locate, source, and present the opportunity for you to come into the market and buy these materials containing concentrated precious metals that have lain neglected for a century or more. In so doing, we offer you an arbitrage opportunity that enables you to acquire these metals at a fraction of their real cost. And that, I think, sums it up in a nutshell. You will have lots of questions, and believe me, we have lots of material. We have lots of written material. We have lots of video material and other things. If you are interested in hearing more about it, as I say, we cater to a limited a number of people. We are a company that regards what we're doing as proprietary, and so we ask that you sign an NDA. Oh, by the way, you'll like this slide that's popped up. These four presidents are very happy, and I'm sure you can tell who they are. That's the president of Brazil, China, and Medvedev, who was president of Russia at the time, and the president of India. And they just agreed to coordinate and expand their extraction facilities in commodities. So I think you will be very happy too when you acquire these valuable resources and help America expand its production capacity.
A couple of quick questions. One that has to be on the mind of the audience, and that is, this sounds really good, so you got to tell us, why are you selling any of the material? Why not just refine it all yourself and keep those profits within your company?
Well, Tom, we decided 2 years ago when we got this started. At that time, we were actually, believe it or not, looking at a stock offering, I was looking at actually starting an incubator hedge fund. But I decided that the market wouldn't wait for me. I didn't know where the market was going. I don't regard myself as a guy with a crystal ball. And I thought the opportunity was at hand now. I had acquired material and I had tested the material, but I knew it was expensive to do the extensive testing, the extensive acquisition of more material, furnaces, a place to put this stuff, the permitting. And so I decided that I was going to go out into the marketplace and look for those hardy individuals that would join me in this venture, which is, I believe, not only worthwhile, but highly profitable. It's an American-based venture. It's taking material that exists now and turning, let's say, we're turning that chicken stuff that's often referred to in that four-letter colloquial into chicken salad. And I think we are presenting a unique opportunity for those people who understand where the market is for hard assets, where the market is for commodities, where the market is for materials like PGMs. And I think there are enough people out there that would join us, and that is proving to be the case. So as I say, this is a limited opportunity. And ultimately, it won't be around. So if people are interested, they should call the rep and ask more questions, look for more material, and decide whether they want to be part of this process.
Do you have a moment to outline in general terms what the offer is? What does a buyer receive when they participate in the program that you've created?
Well, what the buyer receives is the buyer receives title to 100 tons, generally around 100 tons is the minimum buy, and we store that at our facility in British Columbia. The buyer will get offers to manage it. The buyer can take it themselves if they wish, but they will have offers to manage it at no charge to the buyer. And they also get a bonus. We offer a bonus for early adopters, people essentially who are buying in up to the first 50,000 tons, and they will get a bonus with that. We looking at the market, we determine the bonus offers as we're moving forward. But they also get the right. Currently, the price is $500 a ton. They get the right to buy back in for the same amount they bought at the original price. So, for instance, if we get an offer for material at let's say $2,000 a ton, the buyer gets notified of that. The management company, the company that does the processing, their lawyers and accountants take care of that, and the buyer will get notice, and the buyer can take that offer at $2,000 or decide to hold because he wants to see if there's a better offer that comes along, or we produce a better process, or as I say, they can accept the $2,000. But once they get their money, they also have the ability at any time they want to come back in and buy at the original price. So if the price is now $1,000 a ton, they can still buy at $500 a ton. And there's some variations on that and some advantages here and there, but their rep will be happy to explain that to them. It's a very simple concept.
How do buyers go about verifying everything that you've shared with us today? This does sound good, but it's natural to be skeptical. And how does one verify, what we learned today?
Well, we have a bunch of material that we present to them to show them XRF analysis. We're actually doing some other analysis, ICP analysis. We have a lot of material that indicates what we've done and how we've done it, and that will be sent to the buyers once they've indicated interest and they've signed an NDA.
All right. You have kept it very simple, and it's exciting, especially for those who feel we're about to begin experiencing higher inflation, and hard assets are a place to go. Actually, with the approach you're offering, prices of metals don't really need to go up at all to make a very good return. That's what I've liked about this, is that we're not mining, we're not buying stock that can go up and down beyond our control. You're taking possession of material that has a value today, and the potential for that value to be quite a bit higher as the technologies are deployed to process that material.
Yes, I agree. We believe, even if the prices of metals come down from where they currently are, it's not going to affect the kind of profitability that we're looking at.
Well, you've made it clear the best way for everyone that's interested to learn more is to visit the website or get a package of material, begin to complete your own due diligence, and take it from there. So thank you very much. It's been a pleasure to hear the presentation, and you've done a great job. And thank you, everyone, for joining us today on the webinar. Please gather up the material you need and make a decision that you're happy with. So again, thank you, Michael. Appreciate your time and the presentation today. And thank you, everyone else, for being on the call with us. Have a great day.
Thank you, Tom. Appreciate the opportunity. Talk to you soon.
All right. Have a great day.